Yeah, that's
Alright,
totally fine.
and we are
I like
back for
spontaneity.
Allies of Justice, week 30.
31.
Is it 31?
It should have been 30 was last week.
It's 31. It says 31.
Yes, week 31. How's everybody doing?
Getting swole.
Fantastic.
Pretty alright.
Who wants to do today's recap?
Oh, we're already starting. Okay. So what happened last time? We woke up. Okay. So Akko had a talk with his father, who didn't realize he was him at first. But after some coaxing and some questioning, Mr. What was it, like Terralock, something like that?
Miranok, I think.
Miranok, yeah, Miranok. After a while, Miranok was able to finally discern that this was indeed his son and not another ruse by his torturers. Informed him about the town been overrun by, I believe it was confirmed to be Sarmada, I believe, or at least lizard people, he said, I believe. Something around those lines. And then they also had some other things. Like, there's a lot of factors going in. But, going about that, after that, they talked with Kite, telling her about some of the stuff that was happening. They're like, okay. Then Marinok had to fuck off to sleep because he's exhausted, tortured. After that, we had a little dream sequence with Mr. Vedran. He
That's
was, yes, we were took a little delve into his psyche. He was in his bedroom, getting ready to greet the common folk. According to his sister, who was behind the door. We don't know which sister it was, because apparently he has multiple, but who knows? But anyway, she has a click-clackety of her heels along the floor. I remember that much. She had heels. That was something. But he was he seemed a little despondent, a little bored. And then his mother came in like, "Hi, Vedran." She's like, "Hi, Mom." And then it's all nice and neat. And then her throat is slit, and he's covered in her blood, looking at her body and saying, "I told you I'd come back, Bobby."
No, you're getting really confused.
Continue with the story then.
No.
Also, clip notes. Remember.
Yeah, no, okay. All you need to know was Vedran talked to his mama and was like, "Oh yeah, you're a cool adventure person. I'll be an adventure person like you." And she was like, "Oh yeah, you could go see me do the adventure eventually." And he said yes, and he agreed. And then it flashed forward, and she was dead. And he was like, "Oh no, I'm upset."
Okay. Then Ade and Naomi talked for a little bit. Talked to them about siblings. Little bird came by. From Miss Naomi's brother KG. Yeah, I believe it was KG who sent it. Or no, it was the Tosha, I think, something like that. What's I forget his name. But I have it in my notes. Don't worry about it. But I believe his name's Tosha, right? Sarah, you're there.
It's Toshi.
Toshi?
Toshi.
Toshi. Toshi was there. Yep, there we go. Sorry, I didn't see it. Yeah, Toshi sent the little blue bird, telling her like, "Hey, I hope you're okay. Dad, Mom, really worried. Send Seichi after you. Bring you back. Please don't die." Oh yeah, and also I read something. I forget what. But after that, turns out the Garnox is sick, so Yaji went out to try and find some mint leaves for it in order to cure said sickness. Adze and Mulan went out to find some lithium flowers to supply her with whatever probable ailments might befall the party. That'll be very interesting if that happened with Naomi. And Akko and Kite went off ahead towards our actual destination to scope out the area. And Vedran and Naomi stayed behind to watch over Murloc. Adze and Mulan had a quick talk about the fact that she knows that he has mutation, and that she's allowing him to live out the rest of his days in a way, just keeping tabs on him for the time being. Akko and Kite had talks about what's gonna happen with them in the future once this whole job is done, and Yaji came across some Sarmata, who turns out to be I believe of most Samada, a group of Samada who worship at least, or at the very least, or at least recognize Hashaset, his god, as a god to be worshipped, and he has promised to perform miracles for them to prove his worth. And that's where we ended off.
Does anybody want to add anything relevant to what happened last session?
I suppose Vedra and Naomi had a talk about relationship things, and they decided that they should focus on being the good Titan wielders. That was the thing.
I think that was in text RP. I was trying.
It wasn't text RP, but it's important to know.
Alright. I mean, there's other stuff that's text RP that's important to know, but we're not saying that yet.
So, we start today's session much like it always does. Moving from the clouds down into Arturo. The soft rain starting to pick up once again, preluding a much heavier storm to come. But in the area that we find our group in currently, we go towards the forest. In the distance, Akko and Kite still making their way to the next town, but here at this small little encampment that the group has made for themselves, we find Naomi, Vedran, and Crystal, plus Farah. Currently, some of them with tents open and pitched. Others looking to be doing mild training, and Vedran currently keeping an eye on the still sleeping Murnock.
Yep.
The subtle scent of pine in the area, mixed with oak and just occasional forest-like scents, fill everybody's senses while keeping an eye out on the sun. It starts to crest past its high point, getting close to show that noon is slowly starting to wane away. It's around this time that we open up towards Vedran and Naomi, as Crystal, after a long prelude to what you expected to have been done months or even years ago, you start to feel a little bit more clarity in your actions, as you can sense, faintly, but there, the presence of an entity guiding your path, with these two at least, of Naomi and Adze. But we open up here.
For you guys, wherever you want to do.
I mean, like, if they're still doing their own thing, I mean, Vedran is, as described, he's kind of lying down on top of this cart next to this unconscious, quite, what is he, like, middle-aged man? Old man? I don't know. Relatively old man. And he's just doing sit-ups, currently bare-chested, it's quite hot out. And, you know, like, keeping an eye on both this unconscious guy and also if Naomi's still meditating, or at least attempting to meditate, keeping an eye on her, making sure she doesn't seem like she's, like, too challenged by it.
And Naomi is definitely meditating. doing Vedran's pose when he meditates. Basically trying to mimic
Hey.
him.
Yeah.
So, Crystal, you would break the distance between the two of you, or three of them, the two of them.
Hey. What's going on?
Well, we're just kind of all training in our own ways. Naomi's currently meditating to the whole magic thing that I've got going, and hopefully she will get it going too. I'm keeping an eye on this guy, Aqua's father, whatever his name was. Oh no, he can not remember. He's allowed to not remember.
Okay.
She'd glance over at Akko's father. He looks a little better. That's good.
Yeah, he's breathing and everything. Seems as alright as he could be.
She'd nod.
I mean, if he wakes up or something, I'll probably offer him some rations or something.
She'd just sit down beside them.
Besides who?
You and Naomi.
Uh, so what have you been up to anyway?
Well, I was in my hut praying to Swan. It's been a while.
Yeah, how'd that turn out?
I feel the presence now, so I think it worked.
Definitely sounds like a movement in the right direction.
Yeah.
So what you thinking about going back into it properly? Doing the whole priest thing?
Yeah. I started all of this just as a tribute to my mother, and I was never fully into it, but after just hanging out with and getting to know everyone, I think maybe this is something that I could really get to enjoy.
What? Start to notice true love or something?
I don't know about that. She'd blush a little and look away.
You got anyone?
What do you mean?
You got feelings for anyone?
No.
That's a shame. Bit of a waste, huh?
She'd think for a minute before sighing. I kind of like Cap.
Kind of.
Yeah.
What's kind of mean? You ever like someone you don't, right?
It means it's still complicated. I like him. It's just been a while, so I don't know.
I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong, I don't want to be telling you how to do your job, but isn't the entire swan thing supposed to be so it's not complicated?
Again, it's been a while since I've been a proper priestess.
Suppose you get back in the swing of things.
Yeah. What about you? How's your training with Naomi going?
It's hard to tell. early stages. I mean, there's not much you can really do, but try to get that connection with the helix at first. Then after you do that, it comes a lot more easily. Just that first step is a bit of a pain. But hey, she's definitely got the spirit for it.
That's good. What sort of stuff is she going to be able to learn? The type of things you can do?
Yeah, pretty much everything you've been able to see me do, she should be able to eventually learn how to do it for herself. And then more, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I don't understand. A lot of stuff that Riku can do that I can't. A lot of stuff that she can't do that you technically learn to do. I mean, at the end of the day, it's helix magic. You get powerful enough of that, you can do pretty much anything you want.
Right.
It's definitely it's an interesting set of skills to learn.
She'd just nod.
So they've been having this conversation with a subtle earshot of you. Are you gonna pipe in at all, Naomi, or are you just sitting there quietly?
I'm concentrating on meditating.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, no,
You attempt to concentrate, though you find it to be quite difficult. Because it just seems like you're just sitting there wasting time.
I mean, how long has she been doing it for the moment?
2 hours.
Alright. Naomi, you can probably take a rest from that now. Probably feeling pretty bored, right?
Yeah. It's really hard to just sit there without any kind of music or something.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what it is. I mean, you seem to be trying to just mimic what I've been doing, right?
Yeah.
Right, that's not gonna work. See, big thing you need to learn about doing this kind of thing is it's different from person to person. See, what works for me not might work for you. If you just try to copy me, you're not really gonna learn much. You're gonna have to see what works for you. And that takes a while.
Oh, okay.
But hey, you should feel down. Did pretty good.
I'll try harder next time.
It's not about trying harder. Just something that will eventually come to you.
I'm sure you'll get it, Naomi.
And if it makes you feel any better, it took me a long time.
She'll just nod slowly at that.
So you didn't feel anything at all doing it?
Nothing. Should I have?
Not really yet, but it's kind of hard to describe, but you'll know it starts working properly once you start to feel it's kind of like a breeze or like sitting in shallow water. Kind of feel the tides going back and forth. It's a bit like that. See, that's what you feel once you're properly connected to the helix. It's an interesting experience. get that far, you really gotta learn how to shut everything off, you know. And Veteran goes back to doing a few more sit-ups.
Alright. So. Going back to. Let's see. We find the camera moving back to Moulin and Adze, as the two of them are making a approach back to the camp.
So, outside of just waiting for Yaji and Kainako to come back, is there anything we should do in the meantime, or?
Do you have something in particular that you are looking to do?
I'd probably just do some simple training in the meantime, I guess. But if you wanted us to do anything else...
I mean, as far as we know, we just have to keep an eye on ourselves and make sure that nothing bad happens while we're waiting on little old Yaji, correct?
Yeah, I guess that's about it.
So there's nothing to fret about.
Sure.
Unless you are asking to see if you had time to get some personal space between you and Naomi, then yes, I believe you have a chance to do so.
That wasn't exactly what I was getting at.
Dear, there's no man that doesn't get at that.
I'm sorry, say that again.
She smirks and walks into the camp.
I continue after going over, seeing what's Vedran and Naomi doing. Are they still looking like they're meditating?
Our Veteran was never meditating.
Okay. What's
Vedran's,
Naomi look like she's doing?
Like on top of a cart, shirtless, doing push-ups.
Okay, just not that. Where's Naomi?
Probably just small talking with Crystal.
Okay, I'd let them do that, but just kind of get their attention, just wave, like, hi, I'm back.
Everything go okay?
Yeah, we found the flower.
That's good.
Yeah. If you need me, I'm just gonna be over here practicing with my bow. Come talk to me if you need anything. So I just head over to a little other part of the camp and start doing some bow training.
You're gonna go talk to him?
Naomi's gonna follow you.
Hey, what's up? Just, straightening up the string and stuff.
Nothing.
Okay. Smiles at Naomi, nods. So, how's the Titan wielder stuff going?
Fine, I guess.
Ah, okay, cool. Well, I guess, as he kind of fires a arrow into nearby a tree. I guess, we could talk for a little bit as I do this. I mean, if you want, I don't want to, I don't want to impose,
Can you repeat that?
I said, if you want to talk, I don't want to impose.
Is it okay if I just watch?
Oh, yeah, sure. Just gonna get another arrow and fires again into the same tree. So is Veteran there too?
Veteran's still just back where he was, just like alternating between sit-ups and push-ups.
Alright. Well, I'd say since Neum just wants to watch, he'll just continue to just do some more bow training in the meantime. Also, Naomi, while I'm doing this, I'm not going to be able to really keep a good ear out, trying to focus. If you could do that for me, since I'm,
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Then continuing on with the bow training. Not much else.
So, bow training going as expected. You watch him currently pull back an arrow on his bow and letting it loose a few different times, giving you a good feel of his skill in it as he shows quite a bit of accuracy within the practice. As it's just a very somber scene, you sitting next to a tree and him a couple of feet in front of you, shooting into his makeshift target. So, we then pull our scene out of the forest and back to the jungle. As Yashi, we find your scene a little bit more darker than the others. He's currently drenched in shadow, head looking down. The clothing that he had on stripped and left in just traditional loins. His weapons removed, and arms lightly shackled by what seems to be some type of tough twine or weed of some sort. Jaji picks up his head. He looks over the underpass that he's currently stood under, out to a large ring, and alongside it, multiple heads of these lizard-like creatures sitting in pews, all anticipating what is that is supposed to be Yaji's proof of his identity with his own deity. Standing there, you can feel your feet on the hard cobble start to dig your toes in it, getting the feel of the exact situation you have yourself in. It's around this time that you feel the sharp pain of a 3-pronged weapon pointing into your naked back, as a creature just begins to hiss and speak in that tongue that you're unfamiliar with again.
That's it?
Do you just stand there as he's pointing at you and hissing and speaking to you?
Where's the main guy who was at least speaking to me earlier?
You don't see him, currently. You've been put into a very Colosseum-esque situation. You have a guy behind you currently poking you with something sharp.
I'll take a couple steps forward.
As you do so, you feel the presence of your captor or guard still behind you, but as you seem to be moving forward, the threat of the sharp weapon into your back seems to dissipate as you correctly assume what he wanted of you.
So start to head towards the center of the Coliseum area. As I'll begin to need a participant.
He just looks at you and you get the idea he doesn't understand what you're saying. But if you stop trying to ascertain this, again, he forces you forward with his three-pronged weapon.
It's from there we're going to start attempting spells.
Are you doing this before you get to the Coliseum or not? You're at the entrance.
I said I was going to walk to the center.
Alright.
I assumed I was already there.
No, you're making the trek there.
Ah. Well, no, like, my intention was to be there in the center.
Alright, so eventually he leads you there. And once you get there, unlike what you expect to be in a proper Coliseum, looking about, all these creatures seem to be just looking down at you. No cheering. No, like, writhing of, like, blood sport or anything. Just silent, judging eyes. Cold. Emotionless. And reminding you just how alone you are in this situation. Once you get to the center, the one that was leading you comes across, and using the, now that you can see, trident, the razor edges go down the twine, half-heartedly, like, not even really caring to hit you or not, as he actually causes you some slight discomfort as he deals 8 physical damage to you. And after he takes the twine off, he just looks down at you with contentment and sneers before turning away and walking back to the entrance where you guys just took. As you
Do I
begin
see
to look
the-
around, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, no, you're explaining what I needed.
As you begin to look around the crowd, you just see multiple faces, all reptilian in some line or fashion. Some of which looking like creatures that seem familiar to you, like crocodiles and alligators and snakes, but all of them with this strange headpiece that seems to vary in size, shape, coloration, and different, like, apparel to it. All of which that seem to be without it look to be at the back of the crowd. But everyone that seems to have very large or ostentatious ones seem to be in the front seats, with space between them and a show of, like, more dignity in the way they look at you compared to the others. And it's around looking in this area you find the same one you saw before, the one that you assumed to be their priest or high priest, currently sitting in a elongated area that's hanging slightly over this Colosseum-like area. As they, in their seat, have their hands clasped in front of them, making a pyramid, waiting for your demonstration.
We'll look towards him. It's like, I'm gonna need a participant, or at the very least, something I can damage.
Bring him a slave. He turns to one of the guards that seem to be next to him, which is kind of like an alligator-like creature with a horn coming out of its nose as it just gives a nod and starts to walk off. Aside from that, not a single word of common seems to be spoken. And really not a single word of anything as you're just standing in the middle of this.
But he said that in common, though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Give or take around 20 minutes pass before a small and what you assume inebriate's not the word I want. Or is it? It's a word I was using for Akka's dad.
Incapacitated?
No.
I know what you're trying to say, but malnourished?
Yes. Malnourished humanoid. Being brought in by a chain. Kind of gets drugged into the Colosseum with you. By one of the... actually, you're able to take note. It is also the same alligator-like individual with a horn on its nose. As he drags this individual next to you. Please, sir, you have to help me.
As I'll go up to him and I'll kind of bring my arm around his shoulders. I try to get him more towards the center.
As you do so, the guard would let go of the chain. And the malnourished boy would move with you.
You're here to help me as much as I'm here to help you.
Why did I be brought out? What is going to happen to us?
Salvation.
What?
As I begin to push him to the ground. I'm gonna assume he's doing nothing during all this.
Make a strength check. Alright, 12. As you begin to push the boy to the ground, he violently starts to try to thrash about and fight against you as you're trying to push down. It's like, no, no, no! As the malnourished form starts to slowly liquefy into a dark greenish tint.
Say that again?
As the form of a boy starts to change to that of a humanoid greenish slime creature. The chain still locked around its neck.
Well, that seems more fun.
No, I'll survive. I won't let you kill me.
From there, Yashi will start to laugh. After a little bit, he'll begin to bite on his arm. He'll keep biting it until blood starts to be drawn. After which, he'll let quite a few draw on the ground. And then he also starts to lick it up after that.
This even seems to take back this creature in front of you as you're doing this. As it takes a couple of steps back and looks at the crowd, trying to figure out what situation they're trapped in.
And then, a few moments later, the ground begins to start shaking. A few moments afterwards, whispers can be started hearing throughout the air. Nothing too intelligent, but enough to be heard. As he then tries to start swinging his arm, as the blood slowly starts to bubble, his arm begins to transform, take more of a flesh, elongating. Before it, yeah. Afterwards, it just kind of blows up. Bits of blood get sprayed everywhere.
A very unamused silence still hangs over the crowd as you sit there. And then finally being snapped out of this atrocious looking display you got for him. The Gish, purely thinking on fight or flight, understands what he is in currently. Anthony, I need you to roll initiative.
Hey, it's fine if it's a slave, because he's a sacrifice.
Alright. Let's just get a random token here. Yep, this works. Alright, you go first. Alright, so Yashi.
As the thing slowly starts, as the guy starts to, be more afraid. Yaji will begin to speak very hoarsely. There's a lot of strange whispers starting to be coming out. Again, nothing intelligent, but very hoarse. As the guest starts to freak out as that starts happening.
As they watch, the Gish brings its hands up to its side of its head and begins to give off a wail. It's like, as it starts to dig its fingers like in its own head. As two streams of its ascetic-like blood seem to come down its eyes and out of its ears. As it like takes a slime and knee as well. Anything else?
Yep, we're gonna do spell number 2. As Yaji will begin to start ingesting more blood. Aston begins to start hacking. As you're like, I don't know, what's that weird old sound before you start throwing up? He starts doing that a bunch.
Like gag. I guess gag,
That,
kind of?
yes.
Yeah.
As, during the final lunge, a vile black ooze starts dripping from his mouth as he begins to projectile vomit at the Gish with it.
Alright, so
It's a tumble check 23.
So go ahead and describe what happens
I just did.
to him.
To the Gish?
Yes, because you hit.
I'm very iffy on it being a Gish, but a bunch of black ooze and sludge starts covering the Gish as it slowly starts to become infused with it. A bunch of smoke starts hissing up and sizzling. As you can see, as where it starts hitting, its skin is starting to boil.
But much to your dismay as you're watching this, the acid seems to have no effect on the Gish, or this creature. And what you heard sizzling and popping was the chain. And after a couple of seconds, you watch as the chain, being eaten away completely by your black ichor, falls. As the creature's eyes open and looks at you and grins. As it holds up one palm, you can see small arcane bolts starting to shock between each fingertips. As he then holds out his arm. Fool! As nothing happens. As he holds out his arm, arcane lightning seems to be jumping from each finger, but as if expecting some type of cataclysmic event afterwards. He kind of stands there, looking at his fingers, just snarls, before looking like he's starting to run away. As he runs 30 feet away from you. Yashi.
So we'll begin to follow, slowly walking by. So we'll start gnawing on my other arm. Keep gnawing on that until it starts to begin to bleed. So once again, the flesh starts bubbling and boiling, hopefully turning into an appendage this time. Same DC tumble.
Nope. So, describe what happens. In greater detail now.
As finally, using his other arm, it begins to take more form. A raw mass of blood and sinew are formed to a long tentacle as he begins to wrap around the Gish, slowly starting to bind it, as if it has a mind of its own.
Alright. And describe how you kill the Gish.
Oh.
I'd assume it just squeezes it as it just, when it starts squeezing so hard, it just eventually splatters out and just Gish ooze is sprayed everywhere.
And just like that, as the Gish seemed to be running for its life, looking for an exit from somewhere, yelling help in the audience to anyone that would abide his aid, but none come. They all just look down at him with the same silent contempt, as death in the form of Yaji moves back, arm streweling with blood coming down, dripping out as he walks. But eventually the blood stops, and then replacing it, his arm turns into a long, demonish, almost otherworldly looking tentacle, black in color, and more like a tar-like substance than anything of a natural order. And then whipping it out, it comes across the Gish's neck as Yaji begins to pull it in, the Gish currently trying to fight and claw for freedom. But giving him the same silence, Yashi doesn't say a word as the tentacle begins to wrap and tighten. The eyes of this goo-like creature begin to bulge, before eventually, as the camera begins to move, it moves back behind Yaji's back, as being obscured in front of him is an explosion of green liquid. Do you want to do anything? Say anything?
We'll look up at the main snake person. Does he react?
As you look to them, there doesn't seem to be no immediate reaction. But after a couple of seconds go by, eventually, they would raise a hand. And with it, each member in the Colosseum would stand up and look to start to leave from the area. Your same guard unlocking the door and making his way back out, a new set of binds in his hand.
Was that enough?
Speaking in that tongue, the high priest would say something to the individual, but you're unsure what he's saying, as he seems to make his way over to you and roughly grabs you by the wrist unless you fight against it.
Nah, we're not fighting against this.
As you begin to be tied up once again, without saying another word, get led out of the Colosseum. But stealing a couple of glances, you can still see the high priest looking down at you. Their eyes, a mixture between disgust, either envy, or what you assume appeasement, as you finally get obscured by going over the overhang and being taken out of this area. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take our first break.
Kill Gish.
So, thank you guys for watching. We're going to be back here in 10 to 15 minutes. This will be the time to go to the restroom, get something to drink, all that nonsense and fun stuff. And we will see you guys back here at 12:30 p.m. So, talk to you soon. Peace.
Kill Gish. Kill them all.
No, but seriously though,